The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension as representatives from dozens of worlds gathered for the most unprecedented event in recorded history. Princess Lyra of the Etherian Empire, her crystalline blue skin shimmering under the artificial lights, stood at the center of the vast chamber. Her people, known throughout the galaxy for their advanced psychic abilities and warrior traditions, had never before sought alliance with any species they deemed inferior. Ambassador Rebecca Torres adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform and watched from the human delegations section. The humans had only been part of the galactic community for 3 standard cycles, barely long enough to understand the complex political web that connected the various species. They were still considered newcomers, untested and unproven in the eyes of the established powers. The Etherian princess raised her hand and the chamber fell silent. Her voice, melodious yet commanding, carried across the vast space without amplification. For generations, my people have searched the stars for the one foretold in our ancient prophecies, the being who would unite the fractured realms and bring balance to a galaxy torn by endless conflict. Princess Lyra's violet eyes swept across the assembled delegates, pausing momentarily on each species section. The proud Drakmari with their reptilian features shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The insectoid Vex clicked their mandibles in nervous anticipation. Even the ethereal Luminari, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline forms, seemed to dim with uncertainty. "Our seers have spoken," the princess continued, her voice growing stronger. "The chosen one walks among us today, in this very chamber." A collective intake of breath rippled through the assembly. For centuries, various species had claimed to possess the prophesied savior, but the Etherians had dismissed all such assertions. Their psychic prowess was legendary, their ability to peer into the threads of fate unquestioned among the galactic powers. Rebecca felt her heart racing as she noticed the princess's gaze lingering longer on the human section. Beside her, Admiral Jackson Stone maintained his military composure, but she could see the tension in his jaw. Behind them, the small group of human civilians who had been invited to observe this historic moment whispered among themselves. "The one we seek," Princess Lyra announced, her voice now carrying an otherworldly resonance that made the air itself seem to vibrate, "possesses a unique combination of courage, compassion, and an indomitable spirit that has never been broken, even in the face of impossible odds." Among the human civilian observers sat Jake Morrison, a 22-year-old construction worker from Denver, who had won his place in the delegation through a lottery system designed to show that Earth's representation included ordinary citizens, not just politicians and military officers. He had never imagined himself in such a setting, surrounded by beings from worlds he had only read about in science fiction novels. Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat, still amazed that he was breathing the same air as creatures that had mastered faster-than-light travel, while humans were still learning to walk upright. His calloused hands, more accustomed to holding tools than sitting idle in diplomatic proceedings, fidgeted with the formal clothes that felt foreign against his skin. The princess began to move, her flowing robes trailing behind her as she walked with graceful steps through the assembly. Her entourage of guards, tall and imposing figures in ornate armor, followed at a respectful distance. The chamber remained silent, except for the soft sound of her footsteps. The prophecy speaks of one who has faced the darkness and emerged, not hardened, but more determined to protect others, Princess Lyra said, her psychic abilities allowing her words to be understood by every species present, regardless of their native language. One who has known loss but chose hope, who has seen injustice but refused to become cynical. Rebecca watched in growing amazement as the princess approached their section. The alien royalty's eyes seemed to glow with an inner light, and there was something in her expression that suggested she was seeing far more than what appeared on the surface. Jake felt a strange sensation, as if invisible fingers were gently probing the edges of his consciousness. Images flashed through his mind. His younger sister Emma, whom he had raised after their parents died in a car accident when she was 12 and he was 17. The years of working 2 jobs to keep them afloat, making sure she could go to college while he postponed his own dreams. The night he had talked her out of giving up on her medical school applications after her 3rd rejection. The princess stopped directly in front of the human section, her violet eyes now fixed intently on Jake. The young man felt the weight of thousands of gazes upon him, representatives of civilizations spanning the galaxy, all turning to look in his direction. "You," Princess Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper but somehow audible throughout the entire chamber. She raised her elegant hand and pointed directly at Jake, her finger unwavering. "You are the one." The assembly erupted. Delegates from various species began talking animatedly, their voices creating a cacophony of sounds that the translation system struggled to process. Admiral Stone's eyebrows shot up in surprise, while Rebecca felt her mouth fall open in shock. Jake remained frozen in his seat, certain there had been some mistake. He looked around, hoping the princess was pointing at someone behind him, but there was no one there. When he turned back, she was still looking directly at him, with those penetrating violet eyes. "I don't understand," Jake managed to say, his voice cracking slightly. "I'm nobody special. I'm just a construction worker." Princess Lyra smiled for the first time since entering the chamber, and her expression transformed her austere features into something radiant and warm. "That is precisely why you are the one we have been seeking. In your simple human life, you have demonstrated the qualities that our prophecies foretold. You sacrificed your own future to ensure another's success. You faced hardship without becoming bitter. You chose to build rather than destroy, to protect rather than conquer." She stepped closer, and Jake could see his own reflection in her luminous eyes. "The galaxy does not need another warrior or politician or scholar to unite it. It needs someone who understands that true strength lies in lifting others up, that real power comes from service to something greater than oneself." The chamber had fallen silent again, every being present hanging on the princess's words. Jake felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders, heavier than any load he had ever carried on a construction site. Yet somehow he found the strength to stand. "I don't know if I can do what you're asking," he said honestly, his voice growing steadier. "But if you think I can help bring peace to the galaxy, then I'll try." Princess Lyra nodded solemnly, and in that moment, the course of galactic history changed forever.